Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. I am in Arizona today, so this is really early for me. I'm not used to seeing this much sunlight. I have a window over here. I wanted to do this outside by the pool, but that 94 degrees said, not today, probably not next week either. We'll see. 94 is a little bit warm for me, and there's a dog, so I got the sense that he really didn't want me. By the way that he sounded when I went out there to check it out earlier. So, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. For those of you who are here live and for those of you who are catching the replay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we are talking about the 7 signs of burnout that every Black woman should watch for. So, again, welcome to this video talking about the 7 signs of job burnout that every Black woman should look out for. Right. And so I just want to welcome you that you are more than welcome to make comments, ask questions here, and I will answer while I am on live. And so, again, welcome, welcome, welcome to the 7 signs of burnout that everyone, job burnout. We're talking about job burnout today that every Black woman should watch for. Right. And so, here's the thing, if you've been feeling unusually tired or like just unmotivated, then this video is really for you. So let's go ahead without further ado and let's explore those 7 signs of job burnout that every Black woman should watch out for and how to recognize and combat burnout so you can thrive in your career and your life. So how many people out there have had burnout? Drop it in the comments for me. Go ahead and drop burnout in the comments for me if you know that you have had burnout before. I know that I have. Mine ended me up in the hospital. I was in Desert Storm and trying to burn both ends at the middle, going, not taking breaks, and trying to make sure everything else and everybody else is taken care of, and make sure my soldiers had their breaks and they had a time for them to get rest. And mine was pretty severe. I started coughing up blood and didn't stop, and they had to rush me off to a combat hospital. So as a battalion adjutant, it was my job to figure out where our medical services were, to be sure when people got sick, they got there okay, and who ended up having to avail herself of her own services. So I understand what burnout is, and I understand what happens as a recovering people pleaser. I understand what burnout is and understand why it happens. And that's why I'm coming to you today with these 7 signs for you to look for. Right? So burnout, our stories often start off simple. I was really trying to do a good job. That's all. Just, do my job, take care of people like I was supposed to. And my client Nicole did the same thing. Mid professional. She was always the first to arrive into the job, and she was working hard while she was there. And then she noticed that, not only was she the first person to get there, also she started to become like one of the last people to leave the office. And she also began to notice that there was times during the day when she would just be staring blankly at her computer screen. No work was getting done. Coffee was cold beside her, and she would snap out of it and come to and not have a clue what she was working on, sometimes not where she was and what she was doing. She just literally zoned out, right? And she also said that before, procrastination had never been a problem for her, but now she always felt stressed and she always felt overwhelmed, like there was too much on her plate to get done. And because she felt so stressed and so overwhelmed, she was consistently pushing things off, procrastinating. I get around to it. I get around to it. I get around to it. She just like lost her urgency, she said, to get stuff done. She's kind of like, oh, okay, if it gets done, okay, whatever, okay. And that was so out of character for her. These are the warning signs of burnout. So you actually do get warnings before you get in the midst of burnout if you know what to pay attention to. So what was once enthusiasm was really now turned into a persistent sense of just weariness. She said she felt weary deep down on the inside and just about work in general. And for her, the overwhelmed is what finally led to burnout, right? So let's go on and talk about, because you do need to understand burnout. And when, because you hear the word tossed around a lot. And again, we're talking about job burnout today, but you can have burnout in other parts of your life as well. And it really is, burnout is like this intense state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion. It's caused by prolonged stress or carrying too many things on your plate at one time for long periods of time, sometimes a shorter period of time, depending on how much stuff you have on your plate. And for many Black women, right, burnout just isn't a buzzword, it is a significant barrier to our well being and our career advancement. And so it's definitely crucial to recognize the signs early enough so that you can take action and avoid burnout if at all possible. So again, like I said, burnout starts quietly. You just kind of feel like, I don't feel like myself. I don't know. And the staring off into space and coming to, it started off very simply. It really does. And so it starts off with one. So we're going to do 7 signs today, right? And I'm in another state and I am so itchy. And I hate to take Benadryl because it just knocks me out and I really don't like that. But number one is the physical exhaustion. That's the first sign. It doesn't go away with a good night's sleep. It doesn't even go away like if you spend 2 or 3 days in bed trying to get enough rest and sleep. It's the kind of tiredness that just makes every day at work feel like a really, really long, slow marathon, right? It's a different kind of tiredness. So in Nicole, it was number 2, apathy. That's what she found herself struggling with, was apathy. It was just that diminished, enthusiasm and continuously feeling fatigue. Those are the early warning signs. And even though, right, I told you that, we're talking job burnout. Understand that by the time you get to apathy, it actually will cross over into your professional life and your personal life. So you'll get it in both places. So Nicole said she really just felt like her life was a train wreck, right? She could see it, she could sense it, but she just couldn't stop it. It's like she just couldn't get a grasp on things to stop it from happening, right? And so one of the most telling signs of burnout, once you have that, the apathy comes and the fatigue, is that emotional burnout, or signs. Other signs of emotional burnout is the emotional exhaustion. We'll get it straight there. Sign number 3 is emotional exhaustion, like the things that you could handle. Because let's face it, some of us go to our jobs and sometimes we just work with stupid people. It just is what it is. But most of the time we handle it. We handle, the silly things that they do, or the sometimes manipulative things that they do. We handle it. We're fine. We're good. But when you start entering into the emotional exhaustion, you're not able to just let those things slide anymore. And so it's not just about feeling overworked, it's completely feeling completely drained, as if no amount of rest suffices. And it feels like that every day you're just trying to climb this mountain. And the more you try, the slower you get. And it feels like you just have sandbags tied around you as you try to keep pushing through and trying to make something happen. And no matter what you do, you feel like relief simply isn't possible. That's when you know that burnout has actually taken hold, right? And so, sign number 4 is the cynicism, right? So this is where you're negative. You look out, and one of the things that many of you probably have seen this before. And so let me know. Hold on a sec here. I have a comment, and I do want to address my comments here. And so, hi, Christy. Christy's popping in from Florida. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so here's the thing that maybe you'll recognize burnout in other people. You got into your job and you're fresh, you're all new, you're all excited, and you got people going, that won't last long. Yeah, they'll just take that right out of you. I don't care how new you are. I don't care how you think you good. Everything's going. It's not gonna. Anybody run into those people at your job? Those people, that's burnout. Okay. And when you sense that in yourself, understand that that's that's what burnout. Especially if you're not the person who's like the Debbie Downer, or the, as they call it, the negative Nancy. You're not normally that person, but you go to work and you're that person now. You're that person, like, so what? It didn't work last week. It didn't work last year. I don't know why we're doing this again, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't. If you're that person, all right, that is what we mean when we say cynicism. Just very negative, very pessimistic, and just really don't see the positive in anything. And that goes along with number 5, detachment. So this isn't like merely disliking your job. It's just this profound disconnection. And again, it crosses over from your professional life to your personal life. And I've had some clients to come and say, I don't want to go into any more dance recitals. I really don't care about a cheerleading practice. I'm fed up with all of that. I just don't want to do it anymore. I know it's important, but I just don't really care. Right. And so that profound disconnection really makes your work life feel like an uphill climb every day. It makes it feel like your personal life is an uphill climb. Whereas before, you didn't mind taking your kids to practice and going to their events, but now it just feels like it's a chore. Like, I got to drag myself up. I got to drag myself to put shoes on. I got to drag myself to the car. And oftentimes people do say burnout feels like a dragging sensation. You're dragging yourself through life trying to get things done. Right? Anybody that ring a bell with folks? Yeah, I've been there. I've been there a couple of times before I finally figured out what to do to avoid getting there. And so number 6 is that feeling of ineffectiveness. Now, we also call that lack of self-efficacy. So self-efficacy is a term that means I believe in me. I can get things done. I can get things done. I can take a task. I can achieve. When you have lack of efficacy, what typically happens in burnout, you don't feel like you can achieve anything. You don't feel like you can do anything, right? And number 7, the next symptom is a lack of accomplishment, which are painful indicators of burnout, because it's like you're at work and you're running on a treadmill about 30 miles per hour, and you're putting in all this effort and you're putting in all this energy, and there's no destination, and you are going absolutely nowhere. It's like all day long you work extremely hard, and at the end of the day, when it's time to get off, you look back and you got absolutely nothing done. Nothing of substance done. And that disillusionment, when you stay there for too long, that is what starts to break down your confidence. That is what starts to break down your self-esteem as well. And it's especially disheartening for those of us who measure our worth through producing and accomplishing professional successes and achievements. That's when burnout really takes its toll on us, because we're not producing, and we know we're not producing. And sometimes folks are looking like, are you okay? They're kind of like, are you sure you're okay? Because you're not producing the amount of work and the quality of work that you normally produce. All right. And so there are actually some risk factors, right? Because those were the 7 things we talked about. Now we're going to talk about the risk factors for Black women, because burnout is compounded by societal expectations. Obviously, there's the myth of the superwoman. The Black woman gets it all done. I can take it. I can do it. Pile on more. Easy peasy. I can get it done. And that leads to us struggling through burnout unnoticed. People sometimes, other than checking out, like, are you okay? But that's kind of like, you need to be getting work done, because you're not getting the work done. I need you to get this work done. It's not a check in to see, like, what's going on. How are you feeling? It seems like something else is going on. Do we need to talk? We don't always get that, because people look at us as super women, right? Then we also deal with the microaggressions at work, and deal with that long enough, and sometimes macro, the out and out racism. We deal with that at work, and you deal with it long enough, that starts to pile up as well, right? And then also that sometimes that pressure to prove yourself, and that's what hits hard with burnout, because you lose self-efficacy, and therefore you're trying to prove yourself, but it's like you're running underwater and you're not getting anywhere because you're so exhausted. And these layers of things, it's layer upon layer upon layer, which just intensifies the burnout. So before we talk about the strategies, do me a favor. If you're actually finding value in this video, go ahead and hit the like button, give me a thumbs up, and do subscribe for more empowering content. And so I told you about all the symptoms of burnout, but I also want to tell you the strategies to deal with it. And let's just make this clear, especially when we talk about job burnout. The job environment that promotes burnout or that allows burnout to continue and fester is an employer problem. It is not your problem to fix. That's an employer problem. And so, what I'm addressing for you today is the stuff that you need to take care of you, because your primary goal in life is for you to recover from burnout, not to try to be superwoman and go in and fix the environment, because really you're the one in danger at the moment and we need to get you fixed. All right. But again, whether it's a toxic environment or is heading towards a toxic environment, a job environment that really allows folks to start dropping out from burnout but doesn't change, it isn't your problem to fix. That's an employer problem. I just want to make that clear, because oftentimes people label burnout as an individual person's problem, our problem. We did it, we got into it, we didn't do something right. That's not exactly true. The job environment belongs to the employer and not the employee. Right? Now, if you're in charge, then it is your problem. If you're in charge, you're running the company, you're the CEO, then it is your problem, and we really have some work to do, right? Because again, your primary goal is for you to recover from burnout, not to be the superwoman, try to go in and fix everything and everybody, because that's a myth. The superwoman is actually a myth. So while you're still at your job, one of the most important things for you to do is set boundaries. It's so essential. You have to learn how to set boundaries and adhere to your own boundaries. And when people push against them, they challenge you, they try to walk over it, you have to stand still and do that, right? And here recently, in the past couple of months, I've been doing a lot of boundary work with my clients, because when we're go-getters and we get things done, and we make things done, and we're in charge, we're managing people, we often won't have boundaries, right? So to protect your time and energy, you have to define what you're going to tolerate and what you won't tolerate. Right? You have to be able to do that. I remember working on a job where people would call up and feel like it was okay to cuss me out on the phone. And I was just very calm and said, I'm sitting on this phone and I'm respecting you as an adult. And I expect the same thing in there. The cuss, cuss, cuss. And when they went on for a few more seconds, the conversation became, I don't tolerate this kind of treatment from anybody. Because they feel like I'm a W-2 employee at the time. I had to take what they were dishing. I don't tolerate this kind of behavior. If you continue, I will hang up the phone on you. I'm hanging up now. And then it was a quick hang up. Done. Finished. I did that several times to several people. Never got a complaint to my boss, because I set the boundary. They didn't hear to it. I told them what I wasn't going to tolerate. They thought that because you're a W-2 employee, you better pick up what I'm putting down. And I was like, hanging up now, click. About 95 of them called me back apologizing. But you do have to learn to set the boundaries and adhere to them yourself. Because staying on that phone, like, let me tell you what I'm not going to do. No, there was no argument or anything. Hanging up now, goodbye, click. It's my friend, Mr. Click. Me and Mr. Click, we work well together. Right? So you do have to understand how to set those boundaries. Do seek professional guidance through coaching, right? To build that supportive community, because again, when you're the go-getter and you're the person in charge, setting boundaries is very guilt provoking, which is why some people don't adhere to their own boundaries and they let other folks cross them, because it's guilt provoking. I should be able to do this, and I should this, and I should that. You start shooting all over yourself and feeling guilty, and then you let people bulldoze right over you, and then you don't recover from burnout. So do seek professional guidance to deal with that burnout. right? Because you have to. It's great because you get help creating boundaries, and boundaries aren't always that difficult because I set a boundary easily on that phone. I'm not gonna listen to people cussing me out on the phone. I don't do that. I don't treat you unprofessionally. You don't get to treat me unprofessionally. That was a boundary, right? And when they kept going, I don't tolerate this. So I went back and said, I don't tolerate this. There was no why, because you're, no, I don't tolerate this. And then when they kept going, the boundary was clear. Keep cussing, I hang up. They cussed, I hung up. Real simple. And then let me say that nobody ever called my supervisor on me and told them I hung up on them. I did. And I fully admit. In fact, sometimes I call my boss and say, "Hey, is Mr. Such and Such call you and tell you I hung up on him?" He's exactly right. I have boundaries. They can't cuss me out. I don't do that. So, that's some years of learning how to do that. And a coach will help you to do that, right? And there are other things that you can implement, right? To help you in that workspace. And this is what I help my clients with. And I can tell you that simple routines like setting up regular breaks, using the stress break techniques that I teach my clients, and the self-help have profoundly been life changing in their life. And it doesn't take like forever and a day to do these things. You just have to have the coaching, the accountability, and you have to be committed to following through. Right. And so if you're recognizing these signs of burnout and you're identifying with just one, you only need to identify with one, right? Whether it's the apathy, whether it's profound tiredness, whichever one you identify with, you only need to identify with one to be in burnout. And so if you're identifying with these symptoms, right, the emotional drain and the detachment and an ineffectiveness, basically feeling sort of like what what Lauren Hill said, nothing even matters no matter how much you try, how much you go, how much you push, just nothing even matters, right? That is time. It means it's time for you to reach out. It's time for you to take action and reach out, because burnout requires intentional steps. You cannot sleep your way out of burnout. You have to take intentional steps to recover so that you can regain your vitality. You just can't sleep your way out of burnout. You can't eat your way out of burnout. No, some people do that. You can't, like, I'm pushing myself to exercise out of it. You can't do any of those things, especially if you are continuing to have to go into that toxic job, or if it's on the verge of toxic, where they allow this to happen because there's so much stress. You do have to be intentional about taking those actions to help, right? And so if you know that you are seeing the signs of burnout in your life, there is help, and I'm here for you. And as part of, your recovery journey, I invite you to schedule a 30-minute free career solution call with me. That's all it takes. That's the first step, right? Literally that first step. I'm going to put this for you in the chat and put it up there so we can show that, and you'll actually have access to that. It is also in the description below, so it's a clickable link, so you can go ahead and click on it, because again, this is the first step, right? So that you and I can really work together to find the solutions that you need to restore the balance in your life, the balance in your career, so that you can start feeling like you have self-efficacy again, and you can get that confidence back and that self-esteem back, and start to feel happy again. Until you're able to leave that toxic environment, you do have to work on you. And I have some things that I can do with you to get you there, just like I did with my client, Nicole. And remember that recognizing and addressing burnout is about creating an environment where you can succeed without sacrificing your well-being. Sometimes after you get yourself right, you're able to go in and affect change. And sometimes it is a change in job, whether it's within your organization or somewhere else. But this, I'm all about making sure that you're in the right fit job for you. And taking that first step forward, seeking help, is a sign of strength and a sign of commitment to your health and success, right? So thank you for joining me today, and do stay strong, stay balanced, and take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next video.